Hey everyone, I'm the Canadian Lad, and today I watched the trailer of Thor Love and Thunder at 0.25x speed and found 18 new details. I'm gonna talk about the details straight to the point, so this video follows my signature 0.25x speed style, where the details are sorted based on their significance. But before I begin, I'd like to thank Raid for sponsoring this video. Let's celebrate because my favorite mobile game turns 3 years old this month. Use my QR code or the link below to download Raid Shadow Legends onto your mobile device or PC. Raid continuously adds new content and modes to the game, despite them being so established, which is why I love playing it. Raid started with hundreds of unique characters and bosses, but that didn't stop them from adding even more champions. My favorite Raid boss throughout the years is the Hydra. It's undoubtedly the biggest and most badass boss in all of Telleria. And oh, did I mention the heads can grow back? So if you're up for the challenge, the Hydra can reward you the best artifacts. Now to celebrate Raid's 3rd birthday, this month they're giving away gifts, adding new content and events like new champions, artifact sets, and a fully personalized video showcasing every player's Raid journey and achievements. Plus, special events and tournaments with their best prizes ever. New players get a free starter pack worth almost $40 to kickstart your game. And of course, free champions Misericord, Tiger Soul, and Romero. 10 Magic XP, 10 Force XP, and 1 Spirit XP brew. All new and existing players can get a bunch of free stuff valued over $25. Once you're in-game, enter the code 3YearsRaid to redeem everything. Number 1. The trailer opens by showing us how Thor grew up throughout the years. We see him as a kid, as a teenager, and of course as an adult. Now this is only the second time Marvel showed us how Thor used to look when he was younger. The first time we saw a young Thor was in Thor 1 itself. Now why did Taika Waititi decide to open the trailer by showing us a montage of him growing up? I don't think it's random though, because in the comics, Thor spent most of his life battling with Gorr the God Butcher, who's the main villain in this film. And that fight featured a young Thor, fully grown Thor, and an old man Thor, who fought together against Gorr. So by opening the trailer showing us these different versions of Thor could be Marvel's way of teasing the idea that Gorr isn't some new villain in his life. He has been fighting him all his life. And if you think about it, this will be the first ever MCU movie where we will see multiple Thors. And as I said in the comics, multiple Thors team up to battle Gorr the God Butcher. So it all adds up. And if you notice the suit of the teenaged Thor, he's wearing a perfect comic accurate suit where not only the colors match but his winged helmet as well. And I like how as Thor grew older, his body armor kept on increasing. For instance, his teenage self was sleeveless, but as he grew up and kept fighting mightier villains, he kept on adding more armor. Number 2. Thor says in the voiceover of this trailer, and I quote, "I need to figure out exactly who I am."
I need to figure out exactly who I am.
Now when he said it, I realized one thing instantly, and I wanted to share this with you lads. The reason Thor is still trying to find his true self is because now more than ever he has realized the powers that he possesses aren't only unique to him. Steve Rogers could wield a hammer, and now he's witnessing another being who dresses just like him, even has powers like him, but doesn't share the same gender. So seeing all of this, he tells himself, who am I supposed to be then? Because my powers no longer define me, so I must find out who exactly I truly am. Number 3. This scene where Thor is meditating and watching the sunset directly parallels Thanos. They both left their warrior mentality behind them in order to accept a newer path. Now this scene is taking place after Thor lost a lot of weight and is now completely shredded again. So I won't be surprised if these scenes take place towards the end of the film. And if it does happen towards the end, that would mean Thor subconsciously got inspired by Thanos, who intended to rest the same way. And notice this planet isn't Earth, as we can clearly see 2 other planets in the sky. And this massive sun is of course the biggest giveaway. Not only that, we can also see a ringed planet. Now hear me on this, okay? This is just a theory. Thor could be sitting here in Titan, the home of Thanos. Titan, which is of course a moon of the planet Saturn, and this is how it might look if Titan had atmosphere like Earth. Just a theory, okay? Number 4. We then see how this movie will pick up exactly after Endgame, as Thor is seen busting out some massive chains and using them as a battle rope to train. This also showcases his extreme strength. I mean, we're literally talking about a god over here. Of course he would need a little more than a rope to lose some weight. And notice he's wearing a strongest Avenger trucker cap. And if you look closely, it appears that Thor adjusted the wording on the cap himself. I mean, if you've been a fan of Taika's work, you shouldn't be surprised to see this sort of humor throughout the movie. Now notice this fat version of Thor isn't wearing a full sleeves outfit like he did in Endgame. They even had Chris Hemsworth wear gloves in Endgame, just so it would be easier to hide his prosthetic makeup. But in this film, he's neither wearing full sleeves nor does he have any gloves, except for this wristband. This automatically tells us when a movie is about one particular hero and not a bunch of them, the makeup team and the VFX team get a lot of time to do their work. And that's why the fat suit looks way more realistic than it looked in Endgame. Number 5. Thor unveils his new look, and Peter Quill rolls his eyes over as if he's tired of seeing how dramatic Thor is and the fact that he looks so much better than Peter. But that's what we're made to believe, because these two shots are not in order in the film. Notice when Thor was uncovering himself and showing how shredded he has become, Peter, Quill, and Nebula were there with him taking cover behind this rock. So Peter rolling his eyes must have happened because of something else. And I like how Thor threw this piece of cloth to uncover himself, but ended up covering a local behind him without knowing. Notice how Groot, Rocket, and Nebula were all following this piece of cloth as it drops on top of this local. That too on a guy who has a crown on his head, so he must be some sort of a leader of the group. And that's why a team member of this group jumps in the air, shocked by seeing what just happened. Number 6. Thor then bids farewell to his Guardians buddies, but this shot looks way too weird for me. I mean, look at the ample amount of space they left empty to Thor's right. I've read some of the theories you lads have posted, and it seems as though it could be Beta Ray Bill standing beside Thor here. And in that case, the planet they're standing on could be Sakaar, and that would explain the colorful pants that Korg is wearing now. And another reason to believe that these two scenes might be taking place in Sakaar is all these crashed up spaceships, because we learned in Thor Ragnarok that Sakaar is an artificial trash planet created by the Grandmaster, which is surrounded by a lot of wormholes that deposit space waste. Number 7. In the same shot, notice Korg has a similar type of fur collar as Thor does in some of the scenes. He has the same pattern on his leg armor as well. Number 8. We get to see an evolved Asgard in this trailer, which apparently has become a place for tourists. I'm glad Taika chose this road, because these glowing buildings, this flying chariot, all are concrete evidence that Asgard is not a place, it's people. No matter which planet they're on, they will eventually stand up again. And notice almost all the shots in this trailer have some sort of sunlight shining from the sky, which is a great callback to Loki when he said this.
I assure you, brother, the sun will shine on us again.
Loki, despite being evil most of his life, died for a good cause, and he knew the sun will shine on his brother and his people once again. Number 9. Now in this flying chariot pulled by two space goats, we can see Valkyrie in her warrior attire, Korg who still wears the fur collar, and of course Thor himself. But there's one more person on the boat which I can't quite make out seeing this scene right now. Let me know what you think about this. Now this is the same chariot that Thor later uses to enter an unknown frozen planet. And before you ask how he managed to fly an entire boat in space, well, he's apparently harnessing the powers of Stonebreaker to travel with the chariot and everyone in it. But notice Thor is not holding the Stonebreaker. It's planted somewhere, just like he planted it on the ground at the beginning of the trailer. And that backs up my theory that Thor is indeed harnessing the powers of Stonebreaker to power this flying boat. And these two space goats are known as Tooth Gnasher and Tooth Grinder. They date as first back as 1976 and had over 50 appearances in Thor comics since then. These space goats possess unique powers, such as the ability to damage Mjolnir and pull Thor's chariot at super speed. Number 10. When we're shown a glimpse of Olympus, the god realm of Zeus, notice this purple glow going at super speed from one side to the other. Now if we go back to the comics, Thor's space goats were sometimes depicted in the color purple. So it's safe to say Thor will travel in his chariot pulled by these two space goats through the realm of Zeus. Number 11. When we see Thor in a pirate ship and this woman swings towards him to kiss him, notice there were at least 3 dead bodies around Thor. I'm not sure if they're dead or just knocked out. Whatever it is, Thor must have hijacked them mid-sailing. Number 12. Thor and Korg are shown at one point overlooking a giant dead creature in a snow-filled location. Now this is Valkyrie the Behemoth. He's a powerful god who used to be a friend of Thor, but then Gore the God Butcher killed him in the comics. This panel is directly taken from Jason Aaron's Thor God of Thunder number 3 comic, where Thor finds Valkyrie the Behemoth dead. The only differences are Korg is now incorporated in the scene and Thor is holding Stonebreaker instead of Mjolnir. Now notice Thor's reaction to seeing the dead body of his friend. Thor is a bit worried and of course frightened, implying Thor knew how powerful Valkyrie was, so the one who defeated him must be stronger than that. Number 13. We see Valkyrie, who is the current king of Asgard, in a conference meeting with government officials from around the world, and there for a few seconds we can spot Meek, who's now wearing a modern suit and is probably serving drinks to Valkyrie? So maybe despite going so far ahead in life, Valkyrie still struggles with her drinking habit. Not only that, the entire new Asgard has been modernized under her ruling, and that's why Asgardian soldiers now wear modern military outfits instead of magical suits. And even the chair that Valkyrie sits in, even though it looks like any other chair, but has an Asgardian pattern embedded in it. And notice Valkyrie has some weird nail paint on both of her middle fingers. I'm not sure what's that about though. Let's discuss in the comments. Number 14. We get another glimpse of Olympus where we see a massive statue of Zeus. Notice in the walkway, we can see Korg along with 2 red-caped figures. Now one of them is of course Thor himself, and the other one is probably Jane Foster as Mighty Thor. But notice the height difference isn't that much, as it used to be in the case of Thor and Jane Foster when she used to be a regular human. So they're really giving Natalie Portman a huge transformation in this film. Number 15. Peter Quill tells Thor, and I quote, "Remember what I told you. You ever feel lost? Just look into the eyes of the people that you love." And that's when Thor stares at Peter Quill's eyes.
Not me.
What? Just listening.
Now there's one little detail here, or should I say one tiny little mistake from the VFX team here. Thor's eyes in this trailer are incredibly blue. Remember, his one artificial eye used to be a bit yellow in Infinity War and in Endgame, but in this film both of his eyes are heavily blue. Now coming back to this scene, notice when Chris Hemsworth looks at Chris Pratt, his eyes are blue, but as soon as he blinks and looks to his left, the color of his eyes go back to normal, which is still blue but not that much. So I'm guessing they probably didn't CGI that yet, and we're looking at Hemsworth's real life eyes here. Number 16. Now in this wide shot we can again see a bunch of crashed spaceships in the background, so my theory could turn out to be true, and they might indeed end up on the planet Sakaar. Number 17. In the last scene where we see Jane Foster, aka the mighty Thor herself, Thor is obviously surprised to see how this is possible. Now before I talk about Lady Thor, notice Thor's suit here. It's now a lot darker than what he wore throughout the trailer. For instance, when Thor was high-fiving Korg, notice his suit had a lot of gold and blue plating, but this one is just plain and simple black. So it's safe to assume Thor will get some upgrades to his suit in this film as well. Number 18. Now this one is one of my favorite details from the trailer, but to explain this detail, I have to go all the way back to Avengers Endgame. Notice Captain America always cushions the flight path of Mjolnir, while Thor grabs it outstretched. It's because Cap is used to adjusting for the shield's recoil, and therefore whenever he summons Mjolnir or Stonebreaker, he always lets it push his hand backwards. But Thor knows that Mjolnir comes to a stop at his hand. It also reflects how Thor is stronger than Cap in some sense, because he's able to stop both weapons without moving his hand at all. But that doesn't mean Cap is weak. It just goes to show that he's so much used to using his shield that he uses Mjolnir in the exact same fashion as well. So why am I telling you all this? It's because notice how Lady Thor summons Mjolnir. It comes to her hand and stops right there. No extra movements. It doesn't push her hand back and just sits in her palm, implying she does possess a similar level of strength as Thor himself. And that's it. This would be my breakdown for Thor Love and Thunder trailer at 0.2 Febik speed. I hope I was able to give you lads some new details you didn't catch before. If I did, then please give me a thumbs up, grab the subscribe button and turn notifications on. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter to get updates about my videos. Till then, I'll see you lads in the next one.